Hi everyone, good evening. Charlotte here from Enriching Environments on Tuesday evening, Tuesday the 1st of June here in Dubai. I cannot believe it is June. Where has this year gone, or where is this year going? We're almost halfway through. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone, this evening. As you are coming on, hello. And this evening, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different to what I usually discuss. So this is more of, for me, the spiritual side of parenting, and more about the growth that goes on inside parenting if we allow ourselves for that growth to happen. And I guess this is all part of conscious parenting, and this is part of Our Secret Lab, and this is all part of. I read a great quote on Instagram that says something like, "Oh, I didn't realize that motherhood was going to give me a spiritual transformation that I didn't know I needed," or something like that. And it's so true, isn't it? Because when we sort of some stage, perhaps when our child's a baby, or maybe when they're a toddler and they start resisting us, we suddenly realize that actually none of the parenting is about our child. It's actually about raising ourselves, and that's really, really interesting. And that's certainly true for me, and became really, really interesting to me because I was a Montessori educator before I became a parent. And when I was pregnant with Olivia, I read a lot about, and Olivia's my eldest, a lot about conscious parenting, and really felt I was on that path. And of course, as you have more than one child, and then your awareness grows and your knowledge of children grows, and different challenges come up. Each child, of course, presents different challenges because it makes us look within ourselves. So, and then directly speaking, this live about trusting our inner wisdom and accessing our self-confidence has come from a couple of streams. One is recording my new podcast series. My first guest on there, Jean-Marie Penel, who I interviewed, who we recorded that, it was last Thursday, I think we recorded it. She was saying that her work as a parenting mentor, she's over in San Diego in California, part of her work, or most of her work actually, in as a parenting mentor, is almost giving parents permission to follow their intuition and to follow their instincts. And lots of parents do have strong intuition and feel that they know what is the right thing for their child. But because, and I've written here, information overload, because we know so much and we've got access to so much information, and so many of the things that we see online, for example, are so polarizing, it's really hard to find something that that really resonates for us. So, for example, we may want to practice attachment parenting. We may want to have a really strong attachment with our child. We understand secure attachment. We know how important that is. And we might want to really have a strong attachment with our child. However, we're a working mum who's had to go back to work after 45 days, or after 3 months, or after 9 months. So we could think, oh, well, the whole of that attachment parenting I can't do because I'm going to be a working mum. Hi, Sophia. Because I'm going to be a working mum. And so it can seem that these two streams of thought are really, really opposing, but they're not really. It's all about accessing our inner wisdom. We might want to do attachment parenting, but we can't go the whole hog. We go as far as we can. And that's exactly what it is about, trusting and accessing our inner wisdom. It doesn't need to be an all or nothing. Nothing in life needs to be an all or nothing approach. We can, what's that expression? Your heart is always right and the time is always now. I think that's from Amanda Francis. Whatever we feel in our heart, in our bodies is right, is the thing to do. We don't need anyone else. We don't need a guru. We don't need anyone else to tell us. And then this came about, obviously, with colleagues, as I say, we were talking about this, and then with clients from last Friday who I was on a Zoom call with, talking about how they thought, and it was on my feed, my post from either yesterday or the day before, 2 days ago, they were talking about how she was feeling bad. She has a 2-year-old, she's feeling bad. She hasn't done any proper academic learning. She hasn't taught her son colours. She hasn't taught him all this academic structured learning, and her husband were really worried. They were saying, oh, and she was feeling guilty. She's the stay-at-home mum. She was feeling really guilty because she was like, I let him play with water. I let him. She's worked with this family worked with me a lot. So their home is set up in a Montessori way, a Montessori environment way. So she said, I just prepare what I know he needs access to, so he can do things for himself, and I just let him do what he needs to do. I don't give him any formal learning. And she was getting upset, saying, oh, I'm not doing the right thing. I should be doing more. And I got really, really emotional. I was like, no, what you're doing is perfect. It's amazing because you're following what your son needs. And that's what accessing our inner wisdom is. That's trusting our inner wisdom and accessing our self-confidence. All she needed was me to give her permission. Permission isn't the right word, but you know what I mean? All she needed was someone to say, no, you're doing the right thing. She knew in her heart what her son needed. And it wasn't academia. It was society putting this pressure on her that she should be doing something different. So that's a very long-winded explanation of what I want to talk about this evening is trusting our inner wisdom and accessing our self-confidence in parenting or anything in life. How can we do that? If you'd like to jump in at any time and ask questions, please do so. And the whole theme of this is really going to sound familiar for those of you, and I know you have, who joined me for the Ramadan Writing Challenge. And I spoke a lot about being in our journals, asking our journals the information that we need to know, asking our journals for guidance. We ask our bodies and we ask our journals for guidance. And in terms of hi there, and in terms of what accessing our inner wisdom is, the terminology is slightly different, and it can feel or sound slightly different to different people. So it can be accessing our higher self. It can be leading a heart-based life. I love that one. Maybe it's according to our religious belief, our belief system. It can be talking to God, or it can be discovering our essence. So finding our inner wisdom, accessing our inner wisdom, trusting our inner wisdom. It's basically looking within rather than external sources. And it's light or God or our truth or our essence. All of those terminologies can be used. And so I find this so relevant in parenting because, as I said at the beginning, we can either have an information overload and have absolutely no idea what to follow because there is so much of everything, Google, Instagram, Facebook, there is TikTok, there's so much information. So we can think, actually, what do I do? Can I take a bit of this and a bit of that? Or are they in conflict? We've got so much we don't know actually what to do. Another reason is that we could, for example, know what we want to do but can't find the support network for it. And that was the example of my own experience. We came here from Cape Town when Olivia was 7 months old, and I had a great support structure in Cape Town. I taught there, so I knew lots of Montessorians, and I knew I had my mentors who I'd worked with, more experienced Montessorians who guided me when Olivia was a newborn. And my time in the classroom was fresh enough in my mind to still guide me. But then I came here to Dubai and I didn't have a support network. And I knew so clearly that Montessori is right for me. I'm a Montessori educator anyway, but I couldn't find a support network. And actually I was here for... what was it? We came in 2015 and it was 2018. So it was 3 years before I found Diana, Carla, Zuza, Caroline, those people who I formed the first enriching environments with. So the first homeschool, it wasn't homeschooling because they're toddlers, they're piccolinis, but that first cooperative, that grassroots project that we started, that was originally enriching environments, we started in, exactly 3 years ago, this month, June 2018. And so it took me 3 long years of feeling like I was going it alone and I couldn't find the support that I needed. So I lost a lot of confidence in those first couple of years because I couldn't find the support I needed. And I wasn't at this stage in journaling at all. I wasn't journaling at all then. And I didn't trust in myself and what my body was telling me. And so whatever background we've come from, we could have been a really successful entrepreneur, we could have had amazing corporate jobs, we could have been in education before. But when it comes to parenting, it's a great leveler, isn't it? It's a unifying leveler, because we all feel lost when we are faced with our child's first tantrum, or our newborn, and breastfeeding we find really hard, all of those things. So what I want to talk about this evening is accessing our self-confidence and being able to trust our inner wisdom. Trust our inner wisdom is actually on the back of, oh no, there's my business card on my phone, but I'll show you. Trust your inner wisdom is the affirmation on the back of my business card. So if anyone receives one of my business cards, that's what it looks like. Trust your inner wisdom. So that's what I want parents to do. That's what I want all of us to do, but particularly in parenting. And I guess particularly mothers, because mainly it's mothers who have the majority of childcare, who are generally the primary caregiver. I'm not excluding fathers at all. This is applicable to you if you're the primary caregiver as well. But mainly, I think in the society, it's usually mothers who are doing the primary caregiving and the raising of children, the day-to-day decisions, as it were. So my process in parenting, and actually in everything, in business, in relationship, in my personal life, my processes are twofold in accessing my inner wisdom and trusting myself and accessing my self-confidence. Oh, thank you, Our Secret Lab. The comment was, wow, that's such a perfect phrase. Parenting is a great leveler. Everyone on the same plane. Yeah, I really feel that. And even though I was an educator before, it's so different to be in front of your own child than in front of a classroom of 30 children. It really, really is. And of course, people said to me, "Oh, you know what's meant to happen. You are an advantage because because you know about early childhood." And yes, I would agree, because I had the background. I didn't worry about the milestones in the same way that some of my friends would. I knew that my child, if I gave her the right environment, would do everything in the right order at the right time in her own time. So yes, that side of it was more simple for me, because I knew I just had to trust her, trust my child. But in terms of the challenges and the leveling part of it, is that a trigger is a trigger. And when your 2-year-old is having a tantrum, a trigger is still a trigger. You still get transported back to the 2-year-old and however your parents managed that, dealt with that in that situation. So I think it really is a leveler. So where are we? What was I saying? Yes, so the two things that really work for me, that allow me to access my intuition, and this is a process that I've honed. I really got into a lot of, I've always been interested in spiritual growth and my own self-development since I went to Cape Town, actually, so 10 years. But it really became very much at the forefront in mid-2018. In April 2018, 1st of April 2018, I started doing the Miracle Morning. I've spoken about this in the Ramadan Challenge. So that was, I went for a walk, 10-minute walk, 10 minutes yoga, 10-minute journaling, 10-minute reading. And then that actually was limited down to half an hour, and it's probably like 30 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes now. But the journaling, the daily journaling that started then, and that has made a massive, massive difference. And so what I write in my journal every day is, what is it that I need to know? What is it that I want to say? What is my next right step? And the what is it that I want to say really comes in terms of this, enriching environments, whether it's on my feed, whether it's in business, whether it's the next workshop I'm teaching, the next client I'm going to speak to on Zoom, the next family I'm going to tomorrow morning. That's what that means to me. But what is it that I need to know? It can be with anything. And the thing is about access our intuition is it's a muscle. The more we do these practices of actually asking for guidance from within ourselves, the more the intuition comes. For myself, after practicing this pretty much every day for 3 years, I will ask a question in my journal, and I'll have like, for example, I asked a question last night about something to do with business and something to do with the next step, and what I wanted to do next with a particular set of clients. And that was last night before I went to bed. The answer came to me this morning. As I was driving to my first client. So that was within less than 12 hours. And that's because it's a daily practice. So going back to the 3 questions, what is it that I need to know? What is it that I want to say? What is my next right step? Those are 3 journal questions. It's basically setting intention. It's in a spiritual way, it's sending a message out to the universe, isn't it? It's setting an intention that this is what I want to be resolved. I want an answer to this. And the answers sometimes come straight away, or they can come a couple of days later, but they always come. And it's just practicing every single day and trusting and like letting go of writing it down. There's something very powerful, isn't there? And I don't really understand the metaphysical side of it, but it's something to do with when we write something with our hand rather than typing it, it sends a message to, and forgive me if you're an expert in this and you know more in this, but I believe it's something to do with it. When you write something down in longhand, then it sends a signal to our brain to start solving the problem in a way that typing it doesn't. For example, it's like when you ask, I don't know, I leave voicemail audios, a lot on WhatsApp for my friends, and I'll ask a question of a friend, and just by like saying it out loud, I will find that I've answered the question myself by saying it out loud. So that's really interesting. Hi there, Doggy. Thank you for joining. So a really good way, if it doesn't feel right to you when you're starting on your journaling journey, to ask those 3 questions, a way you can do it is write in your journal if you've had a bad day, if you've had a bad episode with your children. Let's specifically talk about parenting. Now, you had a bad day, your child was having a meltdown and you blew up, for example. What I would do is write that in your journal. So write everything that happened, write down the bodily sensations you felt when that happened, when your child was having a meltdown, when you overreacted, and what happened afterwards. Write all of that down. And then the healing part comes, is you write out in longhand how you wanted it to happen, how you wanted to respond, how, if you had been able to respond from the best version of yourself in that moment, how would you have responded? Then after that, if you feel that there's something to let go of, burn that. Tear that out of your journal and burn it. For me, if there's something really intense I'm working through, then writing it all out in my journal and then burning it really, really helps. That is a really powerful message to the universe that you're done with that and you're going to move on. But it's up to you. Keep it in your journal to refer to it, or you can burn it, whichever you prefer. What I would say is the first practice is actually to start using it for when you have those bad dates, when you have those bad episodes, and get comfortable with writing. Get comfortable with writing when something goes really, really well. Get comfortable with writing when something goes badly, when it doesn't happen as you want it to, or you don't respond as you want to. Get comfortable writing and then start doing the daily writing. As I say, your 3 questions. What is it that I need to know? What is it that I want to say? What is my next right step? So, in parenting, any of your questions, what is it that I need to know? How can I support Harry better with this? What should I do to support Olivia's interest in this area? It doesn't need to be something negative. We can ask for advice in everything. However, in my experience and other clients I've worked with, because there's so much emotion and so much heaviness around when things go wrong with our children, when we shout, when we're not the best version of ourselves, when we say something unkind, when we say something spiteful, when we are heavy-handed with them, because there's so much emotion laden around them, it can be really, really healing just to get that out onto paper and get that practice, because we will go through stages with our children where we are more zen than others, and we do handle things better on some days than others, but also we can have a period of a couple of months where we feel like we're not responding from the best version of ourselves. So actually getting that into our journal, and every time it happens, and honoring that and knowing that and forgiving ourselves and writing out in longhand, as I say, how we wanted it to happen, how we could do it differently next time, without the shame, without the blame. That can be a really, really powerful practice. So start there. If you find it easier to start with positive things, positive questions, then start there. If you find it easier and more healing and more natural to get rid of the bad things that happen during the day, then start there. And also the great thing about getting rid of the bad things in a journal is that we're not unloading too much on our partner or anyone else that we live with. And I'm not saying your partner shouldn't be supportive. Our partner should be, of course, supportive in parenting. But what can happen when we're stay-at-home parents, and I say this because I know from my experience, is that because it's really stressful and really hard work and we're so exhausted, when our partner comes in the door, we can dump everything on them, expecting them to hold it, and they might not be able to because of their own reasons, because of their own growth, because they're tired from their day at work, because they're stressed, because they're worried about job security and the virus and having to take time off work or whatever it is. Everyone has their own pressure. So what we can do is, writing in our journal, we can relieve a little bit of that pressure. So when we go to our partner, we're actually going to them just for a cuddle, just to say, I've had a really bad day. I don't need to talk about it anymore, but I just want to cuddle. Do you see what I mean? So we're not expecting our partner to hold everything, because they won't be able to. But our journal is our free, quick, easy therapy session, as it were. Get everything out into our journal. We're going to find the answers naturally. They're going to come. As I say, it's this process of using our intuition and accessing our inner wisdom. The answers are going to come. They have to come, because when you do this on a daily basis, we just become in tune with ourselves. We become in tune with our essence. We become in tune with our light. We become in tune with our insight and our inner wisdom. And it's magic, but it's not. It's magic because it really, really does work. But it's not magic because all it is we're just switching on different parts of our brain and our body to feel different things, to experience different things. The whole area of journaling is so fascinating, and actually just researching about why journaling works so well, and following accounts on Instagram like the Holistic Psychologist. She has, and it was actually with her future self journal, that I really got into doing this daily journaling. And it's so mad, and even I can't believe 3 years later how different I feel about different things. Hi, Montessori Charlotte. How differently just from doing the daily journaling practice. So that's the first thing in terms of accessing our inner wisdom and trusting our inner wisdom and accessing our self-confidence in parenting. Journaling the good bits, journaling the bad bits, and asking for guidance from our journal. The second bit, part of this, which is more like a somatic approach to healing, is honoring the sacredness of asking our hearts and bodies what's really, really going on. So feeling our body sensations. And this is something I do with my children as well, and something that I encourage my clients to do I encourage my clients to do as well. So for example, I was speaking to a client a couple of days ago, and her daughter had a fever. I'd seen her in the morning. She'd had a fever, and she was on and off as to, does she give her some paracetamol or whatever it is for babies to lower her fever? And she was really tying herself up in knots about this, because she didn't want to give her any medicine, because she knows overall that there's nothing wrong with a fever, and she wanted her daughter to, her immune system to kick in, and so she could overcome the fever. But then, as the day went on, her daughter got more tired, and she didn't have her normal naps, and this mum was really tying herself in knots. And she's like, well, in the end, I gave her some pain relief because she was so upset. She wasn't eating, she couldn't sleep, she couldn't do anything. And when I spoke to her, I said, sometimes you've got to just trust yourself. You know your daughter. you don't want her to see upset and unhappy. You didn't give her a Panadol or whatever it was, within 5 minutes of her being cranky. You'd waited a long time. You'd given her, the best of her environment. You'd given her a quiet day. She'd had lots of fluids. You can trust that your child better than anyone else. You can trust that whatever feels hard in your right in your heart is the thing to do. And this really affected a powerful shift in that mum, because then when I saw her, was it yesterday or this morning, she said, yeah, I'm glad I did, because she was so much more comfortable. Then she had a good night's sleep, and she's a different baby today, and I didn't need to give her any more. It was literally just something to help her rest and calm in that moment. And the other thing I said to her is, whatever we do medically, generally in things like this, whether it's paracetamol or not, and the myriad of other medical decisions we have to, hi Aya, the myriad of other decisions we have to take with our children, is that invariably we will think we've done the wrong thing. And that is a piece that we have to find within ourselves. We can feel that we've done the wrong thing or we've taken the wrong decision, but we can always trust our hearts. We really, really can. And then, as I said, the second part of this is just asking for guidance from our body, from our body sensations. What do I feel in my body about making that decision? When my child defies me and pushes against a boundary, what do I know is the right boundary? Am I just making a boundary for the sake of it? Am I wanting to make my child obey for the sake of it? Or actually, if I take a few moments to feel into my heart and my body, I'll know what the answer is. And it's okay to say to our child, particularly as they get older, I don't know the answer now. I have a boundary in place usually for this question, whatever it is. I don't know the answer now, so I need some time. It is perfectly okay to say to our child, I don't know right now. I need some time. Let's discuss this later. Let's discuss this in half an hour. You can put a time limit on it if you want to, or you can say, let's discuss before we go to bed, or whatever it is, but something to give you time to tune into your body, so you know you're not responding from a trigger, so you know that you are responding from the best version of yourself, so you know you can trust your heart in whatever you decide to, whatever action you decide to take. So when we feel into our bodies, this is the process that I use. I think firstly, where do I feel in my body? What can I feel? Whether it's when they're defying me, or whether they're having a tantrum, they're having a meltdown, they're really struggling, and I can feel my triggers rising. I can feel myself feeling stressed. Where can I feel that in my body? What's the texture? What's the color of that? What is it? Is it sticky? Is it scratchy? Is it oozy? What is it like? What color is it? For me, when I feel really angry and frustrated with one of my children, it's a black sticky texture, and I can't get rid of it, and it's right here in my solar plexus, and it's sometimes here in my chest and sometimes here in my throat, like I can't express myself. Listen to our body's intelligence. Quite often when we can really get into the sensations of our body, and feel what we're feeling in the moment and lean into it without hiding from it, without doing something different, without having our own temper tantrum. This is the challenge, isn't it? Not to have our own temper tantrum. Quite often then the answers will come. If we can give ourselves just a few moments to breathe into that sensation, knowing that our child is safe and they may be upset, but us getting upset and not answering in the best version of ourselves isn't going to help them. Them being upset, but us being with them and them being safe, and us saying, I need to take a moment and do some deep breathing while we feel into our body, that's not harmful to them. Getting angry with them because we haven't given ourselves a 10 or a 20-second breathing space, that could be harmful to them, do you know what I mean, over a period of time. But us being able to come back into our space where we're not responding from our triggers, that is hugely beneficial for our children and hugely beneficial for us. So we can allow our discomfort to be there. If we're in a difficult situation with our child, we can allow that discomfort, those bodily sensations to be there. In our jaw as well, that's a really, really good one. If we're really feeling very annoyed, we can often feel it in our jaw. So what I find for me is that feeling into these bodily sensations regularly throughout the day, as as part of my daily life, and when we're talking about the journaling and talking about the bodily sensations, perhaps it can sound like this is a chore or this is hard work, but I can assure you it's not. It's really, really easy. That's what's so amazing. It becomes part of my daily practice. It's part of how I live and I interact with the children. Of course, I overact sometimes. Of course, I shout. I'm not Zen all of the time. I'm not Zen probably any of the time. But I do know that if I can give myself a bit of grace, a bit of time, and I check that I'm leading from love and I'm guiding from grace, then I can check in with my body. I can write something in my journal if it's come up for me, and I know that I will be able to follow my heart, follow my intuition. So those are my two practices. Firstly, get into the habit of daily journaling. It's really, really powerful. It connects our mind with our body. It connects our heart with our mind. We can have the answers that we need. So those three questions: what is it that I need to know? What is it that I want to say? What is my next right step? They give the hearts. Those are the three questions to ask ourselves every day. Even if you just write in your journal every morning and every evening, those three questions, start there. And then secondly, feeling into our body, our bodily sensations. So, and they don't need to be negative. Sorry, I focused on negative feelings on our body, but they can be positive as well, you know. Just getting used to our body's intelligence, feeling those sensations. Our body always tells us what we need to know. The body's intelligence is much more powerful than the brain's intelligence, because what's going on in our brains, 95% is repetitive thoughts, our unconscious programming that came for the first 6 years of life, 7 years of life, as Dr. Montessori termed the absorbent mind. And so many neuroscientists prove that what Dr. Montessori said was correct. We absorb everything unconsciously in the first 6 to 7 years of life. And so then when we are an adult, unless we are super, super aware and have done a huge amount of spiritual growth, 95% of the thoughts we're thinking every day are repetitive, are probably not serving us. So we want to come out of our minds, into our hearts and into our bodies. The two ways I would highly recommend of doing this is journaling, to actually directly ask our inner guidance system, our inner GPS, for the answers. And the second way is getting into our bodily sensations. And the way just becomes clear. The combination of those two, the combination of journaling and feeling into our body sensations as a daily practice, that is what allows us to trust in our inner wisdom and to access our self-confidence and to access our inner GPS over a period of time. So I hope that you found that interesting. Basically, this is setting our intention so the answers will come in for us. Whatever answers we need to know, whether we're struggling with something or we're loving something, it doesn't matter. This is powerful intention setting, and it all starts from there. So I'm going to post this on my feed. I hope that you have enjoyed this evening. Just want to quickly tell you about my workshops coming up this weekend. Our workshops this weekend are the Montessori Infant, so in welcoming your new baby the Montessori way, and emotional regulation for young children, how we can support our children in regulating their emotions from a really, really young age. So those are my two workshops. You can book via the link in my bio here on Instagram, or you can go to enrichingenvironments.com/shop. And I have lots of other exciting things coming up over the summer. And for now, thank you so much for joining me, all of you. Trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom. You know what is right for your child. It may take you a bit of writing in your journal to winkle it out. It may take you feeling into your body to get it out. But I promise you, it's in there. Trust your heart. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a beautiful evening.